Okay, welcome to the Pure Wrestling Show. I'm the Don, and with me are.
I'm Kyle D.
And I'm Greg, aka the Fearless One.
And today we're going to talk about what's going on in the world of professional wrestling. If you've been following the news, there is a lot going on, especially with WWE. Of course, Ric Flair's in the news. And we've got some great special guests today. We have Cueball Carmichael, Doc G from Hamilton Radio, and we're going to have Uncle Masty, Rosh Koch from Uncle Masty's Wrestling. So they're going to give us updates on what's going on with them. But first, we're going to discuss what's going on in the world of wrestling. Kyle, Greg, what do we got?
I'll let the AEW guy go first.
They ain't got much going on right now, do they?
We're already taking shots, I see. Okay. Well, in the realm of AEW, I mean, I guess the one thing we always kind of circle back to, since they actually launched their brand, was just what it's like being in that number 2 spotlight from a televised perspective. For years, the WWE dominated airings and ratings from a televised market perspective. And obviously Impact played a role in there as well. I just think over these last few years, though, AEW has really been built up to something really dominant and powerhouse. Now, I'm not saying from a ratings perspective that they're surpassing the WWE, although on some occasions, their numbers were a little bit better. But that really isn't even important to me. I'm just glad we live in a time where there's just so much professional wrestling, almost like a rebirth, really.
Yes.
You had the WWF for a very long time, transitioned into the WWE, and now you just have all these other promotions: Impact Wrestling, WWE, AEW, GCW, NWA. The list goes on and on and on and on.
P.W.F.
What's that, Don?
P.W.F.
Yeah, and P.W.F. obviously. But yeah, I mean, I don't know what necessarily your guys' take is on it, but I'm digging the world of professional wrestling that we live in right now. It's not great just from a wrestling perspective, but, just a fan's perspective as well.
Oh, it's definitely a great time to be a fan. And especially this weekend, just to point out, I'm literally steps away from 2 historic events going on right now. We've got SummerSlam going on this weekend and Ric Flair's last match. Last time he says he's lacing up the boots, which has caused a lot of controversy. Some people don't want to see him do it. They think he's too old. Others say, man, let the guy go out doing what he loves if that's what's going to happen. Or, just let him enjoy it, one last time. Greg, I know you're a huge WWE guy. That's your team. What else is going on in WWE right now?
Well, I mean, the biggest thing going on, like you mentioned, was SummerSlam event-wise, but in the actual realm of the WWE, I mean, everybody's probably heard by now, Vince McMahon retiring and finally what they say is stepping away. I mean, some people think he's still going to be involved somehow behind the scenes that we're not going to know about. But I'm pretty convinced it's going to be Triple H and Stephanie moving forward, basically calling most of the shots and running the show. And they've already switched over to TV14, which I'm ecstatic about. So I'm really looking forward to this whole rebirth of the WWE with Triple H and Stephanie running the show. And going back to TV14 is going to be fantastic because it's going back to the older days, like when I was a teenager, like that was like the heyday, the Attitude Era. I mean, everybody loved wrestling in the WWE back then. So I think it's going to benefit them in the long run. I mean, I love Vince McMahon. There wouldn't be wrestling, in my opinion, the way it is today without him. I grew up in that whole 80s genre with Hulk Hogan, the Macho Man, Ultimate Warrior. So Vince did an amazing job putting that all together. So I respect him and I love him, but I'm still looking forward to seeing how it's going to go moving forward now, without Vince McMahon being such a focal point.
Well, you did bring up a good point there. I mean, Vince McMahon did a lot. I mean, wrestling may or may not be what it is today. Some people say that's a good thing. Some people think Vince could have potentially harmed wrestling in the long run, breaking up the old territories and everything like that. So it's hard to say. I mean, it could be a topic for another day that we can play, what if.
You could have a long conversation about that.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of things can happen. So we've got a lot going on in the world of wrestling. So like Ric Flair's last match, that's this weekend. What are your thoughts on that there?
Me or Kyle?
Either one of you.
All right. My thoughts, I love it. I think it's great. I know a lot of people are concerned. I guess I was reading a thing the other day where he mentioned he wants to do some sort of like dive move. I guess he's like been a little bit inspired by Sting, what Sting's been doing with AEW. If you saw that one match, Sting took like that huge jump off the thing, went through the table.
He's kind of had a resurgence himself, yes.
Yeah, but I think Sting's in a lot better shape than Ric Flair, and he's been wrestling consistently this whole time pretty much, whereas Ric Flair's kind of been out of it. So I don't hope Flair does anything too crazy because we don't want to see like Randy the Ram come to life, you know what I'm saying? And see like Ric Flair do his last dive, and that's the end of Ric Flair, you know. So I think it's gonna be a good match. I think it's a tag team, and I heard Charlotte Flair has been like heavily involved, like watching this to make sure like he doesn't do nothing too much. So I think it'll be all right, and I'm looking forward to the match.
He's going to bring the ring with 3 other phenomenal professionals.
His brother or his son-in-law too, right?
Yeah, I'm not going to pronounce the guy's name. I will so butcher it.
That's all right.
I know he's going to be in there with Jeff Jarrett. You know, doesn't live too far from here, so that's kind of cool. Getting someone local in, and Jay Lethal, who, I mean, phenomenal athlete in his own right. So I mean, I think he's going to be well protected in the ring. I think it's going to be a fun time for the fans. I'm still debating going out and getting a ticket. Like I said, I could walk there in 10 minutes from where I'm at.
I would. I was that close.
It'd be a great time for everyone involved.
Oh, without a doubt. I'm sure just in Nashville in general, with all the different events going on down there, I think there's more than one, if I'm correct, actually.
Yes, it's a big weekend thing. There's all kinds of events going on over at the Nashville Fairgrounds. The main match that day is going to be over at the Municipal Auditorium.
Right.
Nice 9,000 seat venue. From what I understand, it's near sold out already. From what I understand, I mean they outsold the fairgrounds already, and that was a historic wrestling venue. Many greats have wrestled there in the past. So the Municipal Auditorium, another great venue for wrestling, at least here in Nashville. And of course, we've got the football stadium where SummerSlam's going to be tomorrow night. Yeah, tomorrow night. So we got a lot going on there. Any other news out there that we should talk about?
Do you like that? How they do like the Saturday night pay-per-views now as opposed to Sunday nights? Did you notice how they switched that over?
I'm retired, man. It doesn't bother me anymore.
It don't matter, yeah.
It could be any night of the week. Every night's Friday to me. It doesn't matter.
All right, let me ask Kyle then instead. Kyle, oh, you don't watch WWE, so it doesn't matter to you either.
Oh, geez, these shots you're taking at me tonight. I wouldn't say that it's that I don't watch it. I would just say that the current product that's out there at the moment just might not be for Kyle D right now. I always take a glance, what's going on. But I do want to circle back real quick, just to the Ric Flair conversation here before we move on. And I do want to actually throw in an opinion here. The first being that, to me, Ric Flair is probably the best wrestler of all time to lace up a pair of boots. I just don't think anybody ever did it like him. No one has the selling ability. No one has the charisma. And granted, I'm probably a little bit biased because I like to model things in my own life after Flair. But, come this Sunday on the 31st, if this is his last match, what a heck of a ride it's been. I would love to personally be there, even myself. I wish him the best of luck. Obviously he's going to go into a quote unquote retirement and golden years, and he really deserved every minute of it.
Oh, that's for sure. I hope he enjoys retirement, but do the old vets, do they ever truly stay retired? I mean, we have someone on here in a little bit who will be able to possibly answer that question. But I mean, what else do we got going on? Anything else you guys want to cover before we bring in our first guest?
I got the WWE covered pretty much.
Got the WWE covered, Kyle. Anything AEW, any of the other promotions?
Oh man, we would probably have to sit here for about 5 hours. And I'm sure a lot of our listeners are waiting for those 2 special guests that we got coming their way.
Well, I know I am. I mean, it's always a pleasure to talk to them. I've talked to them many times over the years, at least two of the guests I've known for a long time. One is a relatively new acquaintance who I'm pleased to meet, and he's also our first guest from Hamilton Radio. We are going to bring in Mr. Doc G.
Hey, everybody.
Hello, Doc. How's it going?
Great. Thanks for
Doc,
inviting
how's it
me.
going?
Great.
Well-
I'm really excited to be here and appreciate being here. Thank you.
Well, Doc, it's a pleasure to have you. And it's an interesting situation how we became acquainted with you through a friend of Greg who you work with. We became acquainted, and you pitched this idea of a wrestling hub, as you've been calling it. And that's part of the main reason we bring you on here today, to talk about that and what it could mean for the independent professional world of wrestling.
Well, let me just, I'm a big wrestling fan, been big wrestling since the late 60s, 70s. All the wrestlers, know all of them. Big 80s wrestling fan as well. So all them different decades with wrestling. I've met Freddie Blassie. I've met Ted DiBiase at local events, local flea markets and things like that. Great guys. Both guys were wonderful. Went to see wrestling a couple times at the Philadelphia Spectrum and enjoyed it tremendously. Saw WrestleMania 3 at a high school. I'm wrestling is through me. You know, if I could have been a wrestler or a manager, I would have been. It just wasn't meant for me, but I love it. I eat it up. So the idea came up is if we have all these little places that we can put around and we call it a wrestling hub, then we can share, promote, and share and use promotions to help us with the wrestling hub while we're helping them. And that brings in so many different ideas, so many different goals, so many different avenues to go to. Oh, we can go to this promotion here. We can go for your show. We can get another show. We can keep adding to it. And the best part about something like this is we didn't even touch yet what we can do. This is the tip of the iceberg, right? You're digging and you know there's a huge iceberg under the water, but we don't know how large this can be until it starts taking shape. And then we realize, wait a minute, we can tap into this, we can tap into that, we can do this, we can do that. I have a friend that does belts. He's been doing customized belts for over 30 years. And he sells them to the different wrestling promotions. And there's so many different avenues, Bon, Kyle, and Greg, that we can take. It just opens up so many different doors. And I am so thrilled to walk that with you guys and bring my radio station of 26 years, who's been successful. And now we're on iHeartRadio, which is even more successful. Because let me just say this real quick. We've been on there for about a month. We're the #1 live radio station in New York City, under the New York City market, beating all the FM radio stations that are on iHeart. Okay,
That's big.
That's huge because I have a friend that's been on iHeart for 3 years, and he's never been recommended by iHeart, never nothing. And he's like, "How did you do it?" I said, "I just have the amount of people that like to listen to this certain type of music, which is, a variety of music. But we do shows. We do all kinds of different things. So it's not just music. We made that years ago where we would try to not just be pigeonholed on just certain things. We want to open up our doors, with a lot of different avenues, like I said, and different venues, different promotions, and different ideas that you guys come up with for us. So we help each other. That's the way I see it. I don't know if you guys understand that concept. I know Don does, and Kyle does, and Greg, I'm sure you do.
Oh, absolutely. I agree.
There's so many different. I mean, it just boggles your mind thinking where we can go with this.
Yeah, we've discussed a lot of things, in various Zoom calls and stuff over the last month or so, of ideas that we could potentially go moving forward, bringing in different promotions from around the country, and not just the country, but from other countries.
Right.
Not just in a radio style format, but also in video and streaming services where you can come to one place and catch wrestling from all over
Correct.
and pick and choose what you like. And it's not just, oh, you have to go out hunting for it. You go to one place and it's there. So you can get a great federation from out in California, or maybe somebody from Ireland. I know there's some great promotions in Germany, and of course Japan is a mecca of wrestling. So I mean, I just think it's great, the ability to be able to bring all that to one place over time. And I mean, Greg, Kyle, and I are we're all happy about the fact that we're the first peg in that pin. I mean, the first pin in that pegboard, to make all this start happening. So we're excited about that. We can't wait to hear ourselves, being broadcast on iHeartRadio and Hamilton Radio. I mean, right now we're recording live. Anybody watching or listening, feel free to throw out comments throughout all this. We are keeping an eye out for it. Of course, this will be, it'll be available for replay on YouTube and Twitch and, our other outlets. But the fact that, it's going to reach a much larger audience through iHeartRadio and Hamilton Radio and then other outlets that come into play, it could be huge for independent wrestling and wrestlers and different promotions in general. I think it could be a big resurgence for the independent wrestling, which personally, I kind of gotten away from some of the bigger shows. I'll tune in time to time to watch a specific match or watch replays of it, but I'd much rather watch the local guys, the guys who are going out there, for a hot dog, as they say, just trying to make it and giving it all they've got. I just think it's great, the interaction you can have with the fans. So many people, they go to a major event and it's great. Don't get me wrong. I've been to many WWE events and I've had a blast. But when you go to the smaller shows and when you heckle one of the wrestlers or something like that, and they turn around and they heckle you right back, and it's like it becomes personal, but not in a bad way. It's just like, wow, I really like this. Like, it's so different. If you've never been to an independent wrestling show, find your nearest one. Reach out to us. We'll help you find the nearest one. It is just, I mean, no, are the athletes going to be as great as everything you see on TV all the time? Not always. Some of them are better. They just haven't gotten the look yet. There are some phenomenal athletes out there on the independent circuits. You just got to go out and look for them. Like I said, it's a $50 for the family to go out and watch a show, as opposed to $50 for one person to sit up in the bleachers. And there's no personal connection on a live televised show for the WWE or AEW or any of the big ones. They just can't do it, unlike the independent shows.
Right. And I know, even with that being said, Don, and I'm sure you'll agree with me on this, if you go to, let's say a sold out stadium for a show, and you can envision what that energy is like, you can capture that and you're in the moment of it. You can go to an indie show that maybe has like 25 to 50 people in attendance, and just depending on the right crowd, you can capture that same adrenaline and energy. It's crazy, how special just the indies are.
Incredible.
I'd say that's why we're happy to be a part of the Wrestling Hub that you're starting to put together here. Like I said, I think it's a great thing. I can see some of our guests kind of nodding in the background, going, "Hey, this sounds interesting." And what I'm hoping at the end, and I mean, unless you have anything else to add to this at the moment, Doc.
Yeah, I just wanted to say real quick that I don't know if I told you guys, but I'm trying to work with Cobra Kai. Cobra Kai, yes. the Karate Kid legacy that's going on and with Netflix. And I have a friend that's actually working with them right now, and he's working with Sean, and for the next season, I think it was season 4 or 5, but I can't remember which one it is. But they're trying to bring more aspects of things in. So my idea was, I said, let's bring some wrestlers that have martial art backgrounds into Cobra Kai, so we can get the wrestling people to not only be part of Cobra Kai, but be interactive with Cobra Kai. So if you bring a big name, that's what I'm saying. If you bring a big name into Cobra Kai, that's going to even take it another level up. I mean, again, there's so many different ideas and thoughts. Now we work with film companies. We work with a major film company. I work with an independent film company I'm co-partner with. So we do voiceovers, we do music videos, we do promotions and everything like that. So we have the wherewithal to reach out to literally anybody we want and ask them to be part of this. And I think that's a great place to be. Plus, we have people that know people. Diamond Dallas Page, Mark Romero, $1 billion man, Jake the Snake. All these guys, they're still great guys. They're still wrestling independent in between, and they're signing autographs, and they're just trying to make a few bucks. But you bring a name in like that, now you've got a huge audience building up even bigger from the Karate Kid.
And what's great, and like we know some gentlemen who were involved in the making of the movie The Wrestler.
Yeah. Mickey Rourke, right?
Yes, there could always be crossover too from like with the WWE did with Green Arrow, bringing one of the stars in to a local promotion or something like that. So, I mean, there's a lot that can be done. That's the beauty of media and the world we live in today. I mean, get your product out there. Don't, keep it under your vest. If no one knows about it, it's not Field of Dreams. Just because you put it on doesn't mean people are going to show up, which is the reason why our last guest will be on today, which is the main reason why he's here. He's trying to build something great. Like I said, I've known the gentleman, 10 plus years now, probably 13. I don't even remember exactly, but he's a phenomenal human being, doing some great things. That's why we have him on here today. And he's just trying to give back. So, but he's our last guest. We have one other guest before that. Gene, I am going to ask if you don't mind maybe sticking around backstage a bit.
Go ahead.
At the end, I'd like to bring all of our panelists on today, and we can have a little roundtable discussion. So now our next guest, and everybody, this was Doc G from Hamilton Radio, which is where you'll be able to find rebroadcasts of our show in audio format, same with iHeartRadio. So Doc, it was great having you on.
Thank you.
I'm going to send you to the back, and I'm going to bring out our next guest. Our next guest is a legend among the independent circuits. If you've been involved in wrestling and you follow the independents, you've probably seen this man. He's a wonderful human being, but when he was in the ring, not necessarily Mr. Nice Guy, but Cueball Carmichael. Welcome to the show.
Hey guys, how are you?
You.
Well, welcome. Ooh, connection's a little weak there.
There we go.
Okay, there we go. That's better. Now, I mean,
Yeah, we got a
those
big
who know
storm
you
here.
will call you Cueball. Is that how you prefer to be addressed, Cueball?
You can call me Q or
Mr.
Chris.
Carmichael, or is that your dad?
Doesn't just real relaxed format. Most of the guys in the business just call me Q, or they know me as Chris. So either way, it doesn't matter.
Well, I'm never going to out somebody's personal name unless they, say it's okay. So,
Yeah.
you know how it is, and some crazy people out there.
I tried to explain that to Facebook when they told me that I couldn't just be Cueball Carmichael. I have to have my real name linked to it. I'm like, well, look,
I know
if
that
some
caused a
psycho
lot of
comes to
problems
my
with
house
a lot of wrestlers.
and tries to kill me, that's on you guys, right?
Yeah. Now, Q, you've been in the industry how long now?
I broke in 83.
So 83.
Yeah, it's 39 years.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Not that I know.
I was out of diapers, but not barely out.
Yeah.
So you've been around. You've seen some major changes in the industry during that time, correct?
Right.
One of the things I brought you on to talk about today, and I think this is important, start from step one, because I know there's a lot of people out there who will think, I want to get into wrestling. What can we do? I'd like you to talk, if you could, talk about what training was like when you got in and how it's evolved till now.
Well, when I got in, I started looking for wrestling schools. I'd worked part-time security at Broome County Arena in Binghamton, New York. I'm from upstate New York originally. So I would work out with one of the guys that would set up the ring for the then P.W.F.
Yes.
And he'd get me in and bump me around a little bit. And he'd like, oh, kid, you're pretty good at this. You should go to wrestling school. I'm like, they have those? He's like, yeah. So he gives me 4 names and numbers. He gives me the Hearts in Calgary. Right. I'm already in upstate New York in the snow belt. I don't want to go to Calgary. He gives me Vern Gagne in Minnesota. I'm like, yeah, it's a no-go. He gives me Leah Maivia and Lars Anderson in Honolulu. So I sold my house, my cars, my motorcycles, my snowmobiles. And people don't understand, this is way before the internet, right? It's way before cell phones. So I moved 5,000 miles away with a dream of becoming a professional wrestler, not knowing one person on the island of Oahu. I get myself a room to rent. I go to Lars Anderson's school. I'm like, hey, I want to train to be a wrestler. He goes, I'm 6'1", 225 at that time. He goes, no, you're too small. You'll get hurt. I'm like, what? So I waited about a week and I go back. I'm like, look, I really want to get trained. I got money. He's like, I'm kind of full right now. Why don't you go see Leah Maivia? So I ended up finding Leah Maivia when somebody tells you to find her back then, right? No internet to look her up.
Yeah.
Peter had just passed away. So I ended up talking to a guy, Stu Sachs in California, whose son Steve Sachs played professional baseball. Well, he knew her from when she used to come to San Francisco and meet with like Roy Shire, the guy that was down there in Frisco. So he happens to get her number for me, calls me back. Here you go, kid. I call her. She's like, well, I'll tell you what. Why don't you come down Monday night? We're having a dinner in Peter's memory. It's his birthday at the P.E. Koi Steakhouse in Honolulu. So I go down, I meet her, and she had me at her apartment a couple days before, looked at me and said, okay, come to this dinner. So I go to this dinner. So Leah's at the head table, and I don't know any better, so I sent the left of her. And so what they do is everybody there knew Peter Maivia except me. So they start, she goes, okay, let's start. And everybody stands up and makes a toast to Peter Maivia, right? And after about the seventh guy, I realized, holy shit, they're going to come to me. And what am I going to say that's going to keep me from getting killed? Right? So they come around, they do all their toasts. They come around to me. I stood up. I still to this day couldn't tell you what I said, except for I'd seen him in the garden against superstar Billy Graham, and it was great. And so I sat down, and they all start clapping their hands, and they all stand up. So I stand up, and they clap their hands, and we sat down. I don't know what I said, but she started me in training the next day. Now, you got to understand back then, right, without the advent of the internet, without people being able to communicate except for what they heard, for the first 6 weeks, Farmer Boy Ipo, a 450-pound Samoan, Ernie Stevens, a big Samoan, Siviafi, who ended up being my head trainer. These guys just beat me up every day, right? Because their motto was this: I paid my money up front. If they take your money and they beat you and you leave, you go tell everybody else when you go to the matches, no, I tried this. It's real. They beat the hell out of me, really. So they just constantly beat the hell out of me. And we're in a place called Palama Settlement Gym. There's no ring. There's 4 concrete posts drilled 6 inches down into the cement with sand and a canvas that's equal to probably an SOS or a Brillo pad. So every day when I came home, I had road rash up my hands and my arms. After a week, they decided I wasn't going to leave, so they would do what they called the gauntlet. There'd be 10 guys there. I would wrestle one guy, and they'd get out. And then I'd wrestle the next guy, and they'd get out. Then I'd wrestle the next guy, and they'd get out. But I never got to get out of the ring. I had to go through everybody there, sometimes twice, right? Finally, after 6 weeks, they invite me to the beach to have food with them. I'm like, great. They're gonna tell me all the secrets of wrestling instead of beating me up, right? And the first thing they do is we're gonna do body slam drills in the wet sand where the ocean comes up and goes back down. So it's like thud, thud, thud for like 3 hours, and then they eat, and I'm so hurt, and I can't eat. I'm gonna puke if I eat, right? And the next day we all got together, and Leah comes to the gym. Everybody's there. It's real formal. And she says, he's in. He's family. And then they showed me how to wrestle, but I've been there 6 weeks. And they finally showed me how to wrestle their style, which is kind of brawling. So this is in 83. I moved from Hawaii after about 4 years to Connecticut for 2 years. Too cold. No chance to get into the WWF at that time. Moved down to Virginia, to Northern Virginia. And I decided I don't have enough skill set, really, for wrestling. So I drive 175 miles to Lou Thesz's training academy. I visit him at the Norfolk Academy. He says, I'll call you and let you know. I'll send you a letter and let you know. So I wait, like a week goes by, I get a letter in the mail. Congratulations, you've been accepted as a student at Lou Thez Norfolk Wrestling Academy. Please be here this Monday at 1 o'clock. Now, I own a business at that point, but I'm putting everything on hold. So I go down, this is April 1st, 1988, and I stay there till Halloween Day, 1988. I spent 8 months with Lou Thez and Mark Fleming, and I thought it was bad in Hawaii. And you have no idea the drills and the dedication that Lou Thez demanded from you to stay there and train. If I did that to somebody nowadays in training, they wouldn't put me in jail. They'd put me underneath the jail, right? It was that bad that every day at some point I threw up in the trash can that he kept by the gym, by the ring apron for me every day. I mean, ridiculous. 10 minutes of drop down drills, front drop down, step over. 10 minutes of that straight. If you've never done that for 10 minutes straight, I don't care what kind of shape you're in, right? It's going to take its toll on you, unless you're like in phenomenal shape, which by the end of the 10 months I was. And I'm like, all right, I get it. I'm going to go off my wrestling career. And then my mother gets sick. He goes through a 4-year battle of cancer. Where she gets better, gets worse, get better, gets worse, gets better, get worse. So I'm going from Virginia to New York to be with my mom. So I'm really taking an occasional show in West Virginia, not much happening. Then she passes away, and then I finally jump in with both feet. And that was in 92. And by 95, I was wrestling 150 nights a year. So it took off pretty fast for me, thanks to Tom Brandy, one of the big guys that really helped me out. But training was brutal back then, man. They wanted you to leave and tell all your friends when you went to the next show, no, this shit's real, man. I tried it. They beat the crap out of me because they pushed it to that 6-week breaking point. If you made it past that breaking point, then they'd smarten you up to the business. But what they taught me is I never smartened any of my family up to the business. Nobody. I didn't smarten anybody up to the business, right? My sister goes and sees me in a steel cage. She went to tons of my matches in Jersey until I have a steel cage match with Vader, and I get my head run down the side of the ring, and my head is literally shredded open, and I come up like this, and that's when she leaves. She's done. She's never going to another wrestling show again. And it was pretty violent and pretty bloody, but I got a chance to work with the greats in the business from that era. I mean, from the Iron Sheik to Brutus Beefcake to Demolition to King Kong Bundy, George Animal Steel. I mean, I get to work with all those guys. So, when those guys came off from WWE runs or WWF runs, they would go to local indie promotions, but they'd ask to work for, I guess, not just the most talented guy, but the biggest, most talented guy, right? So it looked good. And I was 6'3", 265, 270. So, I had great experience working with people. And the standard thing was, who trained you? Lou Thez. Okay, all right. Whatever you want to do, kid. Because, Lou's main point was this. He said, whenever you're in the ring with somebody, at some point let them know if this was a shoot, they wouldn't stand a chance. So just get a little tight once in a while and let them know. Of course, that wears off after a while, and you realize that you want to do that to everybody, so everybody's your friend and stuff like that. So, but, Al Isaacs did a show in 1998 called Break the Barrier at the ECW Arena, where he got 11 heavyweight champions from around the country, flew them in, and everybody defended their title on the card. And the great thing about it was he brought Lou Thez and his wife Charlie in, and for the first time, this is 98, for the first time in 10 years, Lou Thez gets to watch me wrestle. So that was kind of like a pinnacle point for me where I felt pretty good. So, yeah, training was different. It was rough. Now when I ran my school in Northern Virginia, I didn't do that to people, right? I might make them, run the ropes a little bit when they started, but I like to do it baby steps. I didn't want to lose people. And that's how I was able to train Joey Mercury and Christian York and Otto Schwantz, who became Bowed Up, and all those guys that I put out there. JC North, who now is Matt Griffin, who runs Action Wrestling down in Atlanta. So we had a lot of successful students. Jimmy Cicero was my co-trainer. And so we put a lot of guys out there because I didn't want that mentality with them, because I knew how difficult it was. I would watch students come and be gone 3 days later, come, be gone 5 days later. They just couldn't tolerate the abuse they were getting. So when I decided to do a wrestling school for 4 years, I wanted to make sure that I didn't really do that. I demanded dedication and commitment to the guys, and I drilled them, but I didn't push them, till they were at the breaking point, because I knew what that felt like, and it wasn't good. So
lose a lot of great talent that way just because they may not have it up here yet, and sometimes that just takes time to develop. Some people never develop it.
It does. You're right. Some people are green forever, and some people catch on super quick. I had Christian York and Joey Mercury, and Steve Carino got his first steady work with me, and I had Lance Diamond in there. I had a great light heavyweight division in there. We ran the same building. We ran in 7 states. This ain't the link. 7 states, 126 shows, 121 sellouts. We ran in the same building every 6 weeks for 5 years and sold out every single show except one. But I had great talent. I had the guys that I created, because if you're going to run a promotion and a school, you have to create talent, right? You have to create people that the crowd can be interested in. You also have to bring in a name here and there to draw the people in to get a big crowd. But when you get them in, then you got to use the local guys to keep them. So it was a different mentality. But we were really successful running shows, and Matt Griffin got to see that, and he runs Action Wrestling exactly the same way. And they've been there 5 years now, and they draw 400, 500, 600 a show. Somebody once told me you can't draw in Georgia. Well, look at this kid, you can. Right? If you know how to do it, you can draw anywhere. But yeah.
Oh yeah, I guarantee he's making payroll every show and not struggling at all.
Sure. And then in '96, I got picked up by Vince for 4 years as an enhancement guy due to Tom Brandy. So I spent from '96 to 2000, which was the Attitude Era pretty much. Actually, it was the era where they were getting their ass beat by WCW, and then they started winning and it switched to the Attitude Era. It was a lot more fun in '99 than it was in '96. That's all I can tell you. You can cut the tension in the air with a knife when I first got there. It was brutal. But, I made some great friends. Rick Rude, Jim Neidhart I'd known for years. He worked for me when I ran that Secret Cove Arena, that underground. It was actually an underground sports bar. It was 2 floors underground. People would walk in there and go, what? And then it'd be this big 5,000 square foot building with 22-foot high ceilings with a wrestling ring in it. It'd be like, what? It was all underground. So that was great. But we ran Fairfax High School. We had $15.90 paid. We gave $300 to the Handicap Association and drew 300 more. So we had $18.90 in the Fairfax High School gym, which probably seats about 1,700 comfortably. So, it was packed. So, we did some good things, but I had a lot of help. It wasn't just me. I can't take credit for it. Tom Brandy and Matt Bowman, Jimmy Cicero were the brain trust of the group, and had a lot of people help me sell tickets and draw and hit the streets. Then the internet was just kind of taking off. But you couldn't use it to draw because you got that funky dial tone thing. Use the modem, murder, and then you'd be halfway through something, you get disconnected. You're like, yeah, that was how it was. So we beat the street. I ordered 100 posters from the world famous Showtime print out in Iowa, and you probably guys have seen them, right? They're basically a yellow poster with some color in there. And there's room for 2 pictures. Showtime still makes those. I'd buy 100 of them, and I'd put them up in places where I tell people, look, after the show's over, if you want the poster, you can have it. But you got to leave it up and put it inside the building, not outside, right? So then afterwards they could take it. But so it stayed up there for the entire time. But we beat the street, and I think you're aware that in 2014, I sold a wrestling reality show called Wrestling Rescue. It was filmed by a 3-time Emmy-winning producer, Adam Wakenfield. He decided to change the name to Tag Team. And Bruce Pritchard was the on-air guy, and I was the trainer for the promotion we came into. And, we did some good things. We had a steady promotion that drew 120 people every time they ran on a Friday night, once a month. And I went in with no advance notice. Right after they ran a show on Friday the 7th, I ran another show Friday the 14th. And they didn't have time to advertise on the internet. And I put posters up and beat the street, and we sold the building out. 512 people. So it just goes to show that beating the street and talking to people. There was a barbershop literally an eighth of a mile from the wrestling building. There were wrestling shows for 7 years there, and the barbershop didn't know they had pro wrestling. Everybody hangs out at the barbershop, man.
Yeah.
That's like 20 tickets, you know?
Yeah.
It was just simple stuff that we did, you know, pre-internet still works today if you want to go out and beat the streets. The problem is sometimes it's too easy just to put it up, right, on Facebook and send it out there, but nothing ever replaces
That's
beating
not
the street.
promoting.
Nah, if you hustle, you can fill a building still, even today. You just it's a lot of hard work.
And I'd like to ask one last question before we bring out our next guest, and hopefully we have some time and I can bring everybody back out at the end. For someone looking to get into wrestling today, what is the number one thing they should look for in a school?
Well, I tell everybody, first thing you should do, lift weights, get really big, and then go play football.
Yeah.
No, they should look in a school. You've got to look for, like, I'll give you an example. You got to look to be trained like somebody to be like Samu, who's been to the dance and can get you to the dance, knows what it takes, right? Or a guy like Danny Cage, who wasn't at the dance, but he's got the Monster Factory, and it's got a history of putting guys in the dance from there, right? So you got to look for one of the two. But look, if you're going to wrestling school, and I'm just going to be brutally honest, you know, Don, that's my MO. If you're going to get trained by a guy who wrestles once a month in Southwest Georgia, and that's all he's ever done, don't waste your money, because all he's going to be able to do is to teach you to do the same thing. Because if he could have got jacked and got to the dance, he would have been there. So just make sure that there's a certain pedigree to your wrestling school, right? Like it's a Samu school. The Mess brothers ran a great school for years. They kicked out Carino. There's the Monster Factory is good. Santino brothers out in California, great school. Put a lot of people in the dance. So just make sure you're going to Pablo Marquez down in Florida, right? He was in the dance. He put a lot of people in the dance. Just make sure you're going to a reputable school that's got a history of putting people in a dance, or a guy that's been in the dance before, because he can only show you what he knows. And if he only knows wrestling a couple times a month on indie shows that draw $150, that's all he can show you. Might be the nicest guy in the world. I'd love having a beer with him. But if you're looking to go to a school, go to a school that's got a history of putting people in a dance. Otherwise, save your money and play football.
Okay, well, Q, wonderful having you. I do want to make sure our next guest gets enough time, and it's funny that you mentioned Samu, because we have connections there. In fact, that's who I met this gentleman through. So I'm going to send you back to the green room, and I'm going to bring out our next guest. His name's not Bob, but he's your uncle, Uncle Masty. Welcome to
What's happening, gentlemen? What's happening? Long time, Don. How been, my man?
It's been a minute, man. Yes, it definitely has.
I think the last time I saw you was the P.W.F. show, was it not?
Yes, you were on our first show back in, oh, wow. I'm sure Greg or Kyle remember the date. I barely remember what I'm doing.
2013.
2013, May 4th or 5th, I believe. 2013.
At the old Scranton CYC, although what was it called by then? The college union, something like that.
Lackawanna Student Union.
Lackawanna, yeah, but it'll always be the Catholic Youth Center to all of us from up here.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
So now you've got some great things going on. I'm going to let Greg and Kyle take over here for a little bit and discuss. Tell us what you got going on, since they're up in your neck of the woods at the moment.
Well, we're doing a little thing now called Uncle Masty Smash Master Wrasslin. It's a good old-fashioned pro wrestling experience. A little bit more than a show. We try to make it focus more on that interactive crowd participation type deal. You know, but everyone gets to watch a show, right? We got these laptops and TVs and phones. You can watch any kind of show in the world, but the best kind of show is the one you feel a part of. So you got to give people an experience, and that's what we're all about. And we had a really good debut show last month, July 10th, at the Troop Civic Center. Like I said, right up in y'all's neck of the woods.
Yep.
Did you guys make it out?
Unfortunately, I could not make it
This is
out.
Don excuses here. You see this? See this?
Too far, man.
Yeah, line it up, man. We do have one on August 28th, so you can make it up.
That's my birthday. We shall see. We shall see.
Ooh. Our main event on that show would be Mastadon Steel and Masha Slamovich, and that is going to be one hell of a banger.
Oh, without a doubt. I know Adina in our neck of the woods in particular, you know, she's the vixen of the area, right?
Oh, the Violet Vixen, baby. She's a menace, but global menace, that's Masha. If you've never seen Masha work, take your breath away.
Oh, yeah.
Take your breath away. It don't matter if it's a death match or high flying or technical or blood sport MMA style. Masha can take you down. So when I had an opportunity to put that one together, I on it, baby, on it.
So now that you had the opportunity to, you know, run your own show, and obviously you have this other one coming up on the 28th, how have things changed for you? I mean, what's it like now being on the promoting side of things?
Well, I'll be honest. I've always been more on that side of things than I have on the ring side. Even before I made my debut, Pops off of Wild Samoan. When I was an annoying little 15, 16-year-old kid, I'd be hitting him up on AOL IM and asking him questions all day. And I learned more from him about running the show, running the business, doing the business side of things before I even learned how to take a bump, before I even stepped foot in that ring. And I do most of my learning. I'm an owl, man. I watch everything. I'm an observationalist, so I would just pay attention. And this man just served up gold on a silver platter all day long. So that's always been more where my mind's at. And I've helped other people run shows. I helped Samu run WXW there for a while. John can remember those days. Me running around the back with like a chicken with my head cut off, trying to wrangle the kittens, you know. So not a whole lot on that part's changed, but this is the first time I've put my money up. You know, I've always played with somebody else's toys. This is the first time I play with my own toys. And the big difference there is being able to execute on vision. And if it fails, I got nobody to blame but myself. Nobody to blame but me. And if it succeeds, it's a group project. We all succeed. But if it fails, one guy's been calling the shots. He's the one that takes the fall. So that's the only big difference. I got to put a lot more time and effort and energy into running the show. So I've dialed back on my my indie appearances. Just been a little bit more selective about where I'm going and what I'm doing. Just want to make sure that I'm the best show out there because we're doing a very community-oriented event. You know, we're trying to do things, keep kids in the community coming. I've felt that NEPA, Northeastern Pennsylvania, has always had a good hotbed and a good soul for pro wrestling.
Yeah.
As you guys know, we haven't always had the promotions there to be able to feed it.
No.
So we want to provide the ability for those next generations of kids. And we want to provide a place for the kids that are in training. There's a bunch of great training centers around Northeast PA. We want to provide that platform so that these guys don't have to take the 4-hour drives to Jersey or up to Connecticut or Massachusetts or upstate New York or Ohio, you know, so that they have an opportunity right here at home. They can still make all them drives, but now when they make all them drives, they got some brand value. They got a little bit of leverage at the negotiating table instead of just being some schmuck from backwoods PA. That's my gimmick, some schmuck from backwoods PA. So we try to do everything we can to put kids in the seats, and including all of our sponsorship programs. Anyone that follows our Facebook, it's facebook.com/Smash Master Wrasslin, WRASSLIN. If you check that out, you'll see that we're always pushing sponsorships. And the way our sponsorships work is it's not money just going into my pocket. You know, we're giving advertising benefits to the community, and then we're taking the money that comes in to cover the cost of tickets so that we can give tickets to the Civic Center and they can give it out to kids in the community. And then the money that comes in, that goes right to the talent. Make sure the boys get paid. There's too many places paying with hot dogs and handshakes.
Yeah.
You know, I may not be able to make $1 million and make everybody rich, but I'm going to try to funnel as much of that money back to the kids as possible. You know, and as long as I can give everyone that platform, hey, I'm happy. That's what matters to me. Give the opportunity and the platform that we didn't have.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And you bring up an interesting point. Originally, when your show was actually being promoted and advertised, I had noticed, the comp tickets that were actually going towards kids. And, you really don't see stuff like that often. I really appreciated that personally, just giving back to the community, and you don't really see it enough.
Well, how much are wrestling tickets now? 20, like I run was $20, but I've seen them as 30, 40,
Yeah.
I don't know about you guys, but my parents, when I was growing up, the phrase I heard most was, "We don't got money for that. We don't got money for that." And that sucks because, like, my friends would go to live events and I'd have to hear about it and I would never be able to go because we didn't have the money. And so many of the guys on our shows grew up the same way. We're talking about Scranton, Wilkes-Barre street kids.
Yeah.
So this is a chance to make sure that no one has to suffer from that economic gateway. No one's got to be held back. The money's still going to come in and go to the talent. I'm going to make sure my boys get paid no matter what. But if I can stuff that crowd with 50, 60, 100 extra kids all day, every day. And the beautiful thing is, I've found that since we've tied everything to making sure that we're giving access to kids, the businesses in the community, they are completely blessing this whole thing. We don't have problems getting posters put up. And when we're getting posters put up, we're getting sponsorship money walk out the door. It's a constant training. The talent, because everybody understands and is on board with what we're doing, they're pushing to get their matches sponsored because they know the more money that comes in, the more money that's going to go out. And if the gate's good, I don't care what our negotiator rate was. If the gate was good and I got more money in, I'm going to send more out. I'm going to goose the pay. I got no problem with that. I've always felt I was fair.
Yeah, no,
I don't like hot dogs anyway, man. Ain't nobody like hot dogs. And it's post-COVID, so no handshakes, So, like, there's half the pain that's gone right there.
In this business, you see enough of them for sure.
So you're going to be focusing more on the promoter side of wrestling moving forward, a little less on like your own personal character and wrestling yourself?
I'm always going to be a character, and I'm always going to try. As long as I got wheels, I'm going to keep running them. But yeah, I am going to focus more on the promoting side. But Uncle Masty still gets out there. I still got some things I got to do. I still got an itch I got to scratch. But I'm a little bit choosier about where I go. I don't need to be doing 150 dates a year like old Q did. God bless him. I'm jealous. That was never in the cards for my era. Q done started wrestling the year I was born, right? 83. So I'm an old man in professional wrestling. I'm 39 years old. I'm an old man in professional wrestling. That man's like a Greek god, like a Titan. Like he barely exists beyond mythos,
Yeah.
Ooh. A rare glimpse of a legend when he's popped down there. A completely different. In my era and the era that's out there right now, that's a whole world of difference too. I ain't gonna lie. I spent a lot of time scratching my head watching these kids going, "What y'all doing now?" But I do my best to keep up. And again, it's providing a platform for them to do what they do and to make sure those kids that are going to be following after them in years to come don't have any problem coming to see it. We gave away over 50 tickets the last show.
Wow.
I want to double that for the August 28th. I'm already over 30. I want to double. I want to see 100 kids get to walk in that door for free. If I can get my whole show paid for, I'll give all the seats away. I don't care. I want people in the crowd, and there's nobody wanting the crowd more than kids. Because kids love this. They live for this. To them, we are superheroes. To most adults, we're just morons who like to fall down a lot. We just crazy old men that like to punch each other in the face. But to these kids, we're heroes. We're legends. So if I can give that, if that's what my legacy is and that's what I can give back, I can't ask for much more than that. I ain't going to get rich doing this, and that's not the goal. But if I can provide opportunities, that's the goal.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
I remember the first show that we put on at the CYC. I was under the down in the locker room while you guys. In fact, I think your match was the one going on at that point in time. And Samu turned to me. He's like, "You hear that crowd?" He's like, "You put that on. They're here because of what you had a vision of, and everyone here is just executing it." It was a great show. I couldn't tell you who won a single match. I mean, I know who did, but I didn't see a single match, I think, that day. But it was the most rewarding day.
I got hit in the face with a shake weight that day. Thanks, Mike Mitchell.
I'm sorry. I wasn't the ref. Blame the ref.
When it comes to the extra guys, you never know how it's going to shake down.
Don't trust me. Yeah, I know how it's going to shake down. I'm going to get hit in the head with a shake weight, or Gus is going to get slapped in the face with protein pellets. One of the two.
Well, we've only got a couple of minutes left here. Actually, we only got a couple minutes left here, so I'd like to try to bring back Gene and Cueball. I don't know if anybody who's been watching, we've had people popping in and out the whole show. So I don't know, but I'm going to try to bring them back. And just, if anybody has any questions, or if you guys got questions for each other, let's go for it. So I'm going to bring Gene back. Gene, welcome back. And it looks like Q stepped away for a brief moment. So as soon as he comes back, I'll bring him back in. But we've got about 5 minutes or so left in the show.
I told you he's a legend. He's like a myth. He was here. He's gone now.
Yeah, was he even really here?
There it is.
I had to be wiping my eyes listening to Uncle Masty, man. Let me tell you
it was
something.
great. I was watching it.
Man, seriously, like you touched me, bro, and that's hard to do. I gotta steel plate in there, man. You can't get through that, but man, talking about doing it for the kids and what you're doing and getting sponsorships, and so you can put more people in the seats without costing them money. I was that kid that you were, bro. I know you were born in the year I started, but when I was a kid, growing up in upstate New York, I heard so many times from my parents, "We ain't got money for that. We ain't got money for that. You better go shovel some snow if you want money to go to them wrestling matches and get yourself a ride at the same time."
Yep.
Yeah. The true story.
Old Eric Schaefer used to drive me to all them shows in the early days, Old substitute math teacher used to drive me to wrestling shows back in the day. My parents had no interest in watching that. But Q, you said it. You nailed it on the head. You got to hit the streets. You got to make connections with people. So many of these promotions are popping up online, and they'll flood your feed with graphics, and they're beautiful graphics. But guess what? They're all just friends with other wrestlers.
Yeah.
When you're promoting on Facebook, you're just telling other wrestlers about what you're doing, other promoters about what you're doing.
Right.
You got to hit the streets. You got to get posters on the wall. And more importantly than posters, because people don't read no more, you got to put something in somebody's hand.
Yeah.
Get a flyer in someone's hand.
Yeah.
I can talk to Q all day, right? We're both old wrestlers. We talk to wrestlers all the time. But when I talk to a guy at the gas station and he finds out I'm a pro wrestler, well, shit, he's talking about that for 2 weeks. I met a pro wrestler the other day. Those things matter.
Yep.
That'll sell more tickets than the prettiest 30 guys on one poster,
100%. 100%.
Even
proud of what you're doing out there, brother. Proud of what you're doing out there. Seriously.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Going back to the beginning of the show real quick, too, when I had mentioned, you can get that same dynamic and that same energy, from a stadium on an indie level event. For anyone that's listening that maybe has never even been to a local show, I encourage you to definitely go. You are missing, a hell of a time, especially for the kids, as we mentioned. At the end of the day, it's really all for them.
Yeah,
the first show I ever went to, HC Loke was on that show. I told this story a couple times because I just wrestled the old man, a couple old men in the ring, it's a good time. He made a point. I was 15 years old. He made a point to stand and talk to me for 15, 20 minutes. I still have that 8x10. I still have it. It made a connection. When I went to the WXW and I saw Pops for the first time, HC Loke was on that show. That man made a connection, so I paid attention to everything he did. When he got picked up at Ring of Honor and was a referee when they first started, I watched. I was proud of him. Then when he got to start tagging there, won the tag titles, I was stepped away from wrestling at the time. That mattered to me because that man made a connection. Guys, make connections.
Yeah.
Make connections.
For sure. You're doing all the right things, man. It's good to see. Honestly. Really.
We respect you.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, wow. You're doing the same stuff I did 30 years ago out there in the streets, man. I thought it was dead, but you've restored my faith in somebody hitting the streets, getting sponsors, and making it count, man. Working for the kids.
That's right.
Great.
If you're doing it for the kids, what are we doing it for?
Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
Hey, by the way, Doc G, I followed you on LinkedIn.
Oh, thank you, Cueball. It's a pleasure to meet you again. I'm
Yeah,
friends
you
with
too.
Jack Lord and all these other guys. I love, I love the aspect of the way Uncle Masty was talking about. Again,
When you
and
get-
we try to do the same thing on our level too. The same
Right.
way Uncle Masty, where we try to promote and get other people out there and do them things. But of course, we don't do it. We don't do it because we do it because we can.
Yeah.
We do it because we want to. We do it because we love what we do.
Yeah.
And that's why you're doing it. And I have so much respect for both of you.
Yeah, Uncle Masty will tell you as we get older, and as we wrestle more when we get older, we learn to tell a story and make a couple bumps in the right place count, right?
Amen.
Not like when we were just starting out and we bumped all over the place.
Less is
No.
more, right? Less is
Yeah.
more.
Less is always
So,
more.
gentlemen, I
Absolutely.
hate to be the bearer of bad news because we could probably go on another hour, but
Oh,
our
easy.
time for today is up. I would love to have all three of you back on at different points in the future. It's a pleasure having you guys. Any
It
last
was.
words?
Thank
man.
you, guys.
God
Thank
bless.
you. Doc,
Make
you,
connections,
Matthew.
y'all. Make connections. Make connections.
That's
Been an
right.
honor. Thank you.
That's right.
Well, gentlemen, have a good day and thank you for tuning in.
Thank you.
Good night.
Bye.